Hey, welcome back everybody. Great to see you on this Saturday, and we've got a lot to talk about in today's video, from a likely severe weather outbreak, including multiple strong tornadoes today into tomorrow, followed up by what could be a blast of extreme Arctic air going into the start of January. So we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Hit the bell for the latest notifications, like the video, and of course, comment, let me know where you're watching from. Now, a couple housekeeping things. I'm going to have, obviously, this video right now. I'm going to have another video like normal tomorrow, but it'll probably be a little more abbreviated, as I'm expecting to storm chase at some point tomorrow. I'll kind of get the details on that for you. And then starting January 1st, we should be back to normal schedule. And by that, I mean I'll be back in Charlotte full time. And I'm going to try to double up on the videos at that point as we get a little bit closer to the big time pattern change coming up. And then after that, we will kind of go from there for plans on the channel. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and start talking weather here and break down everything on the horizon. Now, looking at satellite loop, you can kind of see a couple areas that might catch your eye, and for good reason. Specifically down here into Texas, you'll notice this little area of spin. This is going to bring some very feisty weather this afternoon, and unfortunately could produce a couple strong tornadoes, meaning EF2 strength or greater, through portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and maybe even into East Texas and Alabama. Also going to be in that threat area before tomorrow the threat moves into the Carolinas and up into the mid-Atlantic, where you too could see strong straight line winds and a couple tornadoes. Now, this is not the only feature on the map. You'll notice another little spin up here into portions of Wisconsin and into Minnesota, and then just an atmospheric river continuing out west. And that is kind of what is bringing these pieces of energy that are causing this severe weather, and then also a pretty good area of rain along the East Coast. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at radar as well, which I think is kind of matching up with this pretty well this morning. We'll go ahead and start in the east. In fact, we'll actually start up in the Midwest here. Pretty good rain falling from Duluth all the way down into Wisconsin, through the UP of Michigan. It's been a while since you've seen good old-fashioned rain. It's been a pretty snowy start to winter here through much of December and even January, or excuse me, even November rather. But the rain is definitely returning here as all of that warm air pushes north out of the Gulf. And again, that's one of the reasons we're going to run into that severe weather threat over the next couple of days. Now, we'll move this south into the northeast and into the mid-Atlantic, and you can kind of see this rain also falling down here from the I-95 corridor, New York City south, all the way into D.C., Baltimore, and much of Virginia and the Carolinas, picking up on that heavy rain. Now, today, not a severe weather threat in this area, but tomorrow that could change through portions of the Carolinas up through the Virginias, where severe weather will likely be a concern we need to kind of look into. Also, a little bit of freezing rain, freezing drizzle here in the higher elevations of the interior Northeast. So if you're traveling in that area, definitely play it safe if you're having to go anywhere, as there could be some icy spots on the roadways. Now, let's go ahead and start looking at the threat area today on the radar. Currently, not a lot right now, but you'll notice this active weather building back into the Dallas area is going to move east throughout the day, and with it, increasing chances of strong to severe storms, and likely, unfortunately, multiple tornadoes today, potentially outbreak of severe weather through today and tomorrow combined. Out west, no walk in the park either. Plenty of mountain snow, plenty of coastal rain, strong gusty winds there as well, as these storm systems continue to work ashore. And you folks have really kind of been under the gun for that over the past couple of days at least. Watches, warnings, advisories, folks. The map is filled in. Northeast, we've got winter weather advisories in the purple here for that ice that I mentioned, from portions of Albany area all the way back down the Hudson Valley towards New York City, but not including New York City. Waterbury, Springfield, Worcester, if I said that right. I know I was told how to pronounce it correctly. I might have messed it up anyway. Either way, though, you get the idea. In this purple area, that's where some of that freezing drizzle could accrete this afternoon, from a glaze upwards to 1/10 of an inch of ice, and obviously that's enough to cause problems travel-wise. Now, I'm not expecting big power outages, but travel this time of the year is abundant, of course, and anytime you see impacts to it, you need to be aware. So definitely going to worry about that up in that portion of the country. And then all these gray boxes you see, folks, these are dense fog advisories. All of that humid air coming up out of the Gulf and producing all this fog. And unfortunately, when you get big fog in the wintertime, that's generally a sign of an unstable atmosphere, as plenty of moisture is at the surface, and that is going to translate to widespread severe weather later on today down here into the south. In fact, severe thunderstorm watch already in effect for the DFW area. this morning. And then out west, plenty of snow, plenty of coastal rain, and high winds going to be the main threat, with the pink winter storm warnings, purple winter weather advisories, and then flooding in the green, and wind there in the brown and the more yellowish colors on your map. All right, let's go ahead and do meteorology in minutes here and kind of break down why this severe weather threat is even happening. And this is about the time this video, or at least about the time probably many of you are watching it late this morning, and it's all due to this piece of energy over Texas currently. A strong, well-defined little trough here, and this is not a huge long wave trough, or at least the kind of potent portion of it is more almost of a short wave trough, which is really just about the size of Texas. But what is happening is, because of this little kink in the jet stream, we are getting an abundant amount of vorticity or spin in the atmosphere, and that is combining also to create forced ascent or lift right across the warm sector. So the greatest area of lift is right into this region. And what does that overlap with? Well, that overlaps perfectly with where that warm, humid Gulf air is pushing northward. And you get those high moisture contents and warm temperatures at the surface combined with an atmosphere that already wants to create lift. And then the wind shear on top of that, that's a perfect setup for severe weather. And that's exactly what's going to happen this afternoon. But again, that's not the end of it. We go through today into this evening. This trough becomes even more potent, even more of kind of a look of vorticity and lift here through the evening hours. So this will be a daytime and an overnight threat for strong to severe tornadoes. Strong to severe storms and violent tornadoes. There we go. I got it out that time. Into this part of the country from Louisiana, Mississippi, and then overnight into Alabama. And then, folks, we're waking up tomorrow morning, and you're noticing this trough is still here. In fact, there's even more spin with it, and that's going to continue to produce lift. Now, not everybody that sees lift is going to see severe weather. In fact, we're expecting rain across really much of the east out of this, but the severe weather threat is going to happen really from tomorrow morning through the day, as a strong line of storms is going to push through. And you can kind of see that with a look like this. That line of storms pushing through the Carolinas, the Virginias throughout the day tomorrow, and then this storm pulling northward into the Midwest, where then we could see some snow into portions of Michigan, portions of Ontario by Sunday overnight and into Monday as this pulls out of here. And then the big pattern change will become the next topic as we go towards January and the start of 2025. All right, so severe weather, like I said, obviously a threat today, a moderate risk, and it has been a while since we've seen this. This is a level 4 out of 5 for severe weather. One level higher is the highest level we can get. And this is from really now through overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. That moderate risk from Jackson, Mississippi to Meridian, Hattiesburg, Alexandria, Louisiana, and kind of really surrounding areas. And this is unfortunately driven by a tornado risk. We have a 15% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius, and that is a very high threat, folks. It doesn't get much higher than this. And these could be messy storms, meaning these are not likely going to be the pretty big wedges that you see out in the plains during May and June, but rather it's going to be a messy, rain-wrapped, just kind of humid day out there, and not going to be something that you can stand on the front porch and video. So if a tornado warning is issued for wherever you're at, take it serious. Find shelter, lowest interior room of a house. If you live in a mobile home, I would really recommend today staying somewhere that is not a mobile home, just to play it safe if you have family in a more sturdy structure anywhere in this red area, and really even the yellow area as well, because this is all hatched, meaning not only is there a high tornado threat, there is a high threat for strong, violent tornadoes, the kind that many structures in the South unfortunately just cannot withstand. So a very serious day today, and unfortunately, folks, tomorrow, again, no walk in the park either. Another tornado threat, this time not hatched, but a big threat of tornadoes. And in fact, if we bring this back to the categorical risk, just severe weather in general from the Florida Panhandle all the way up to the Pittsburgh area tomorrow, that's how you know this is a big, strong storm system. But the bullseye of it from Atlanta, Macon through Augusta, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, Florence, and then if I had to draw in a little extra area of kind of potential Bigger problems tomorrow afternoon. It could be a 1-2 punch right into this region I have circled, from Charlotte up into the Triad, Raleigh, and kind of into the Danville, Virginia area. You're going to get the morning line of storms, and then the question becomes, does the atmosphere re-destabilize during the afternoon, and can we get more discrete cells to form that could have a higher end photogenic, maybe tornado potential? And that's what I'll be watching for in that area, and I'll show you that on the models. But either way, tomorrow, another severe weather risk, and like I showed you, tornadoes also a threat, highest threat in that brown area from Augusta, Columbia, Charlotte, up into Greensboro, and back down towards the PD and the Sandhills. Going to see likely strong to severe storms capable of producing tornadoes for your Sunday afternoon. All right, folks, let's time this out on the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model. Let me back it up just a tad here to about 10 a.m. this morning, Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central. Notice storms already beginning to fire here through Louisiana and East Texas, and that's going to be the theme today. Any of these storms going to have the potential to produce a strong tornado, especially the later we get into the day. This is about 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern, or about 2 or 3 p.m. Central Time, and this is when I think things really go downhill, and in that moderate risk from Louisiana into into Mississippi rather. And it's hard to tell on the map. I know it's a little small, but these storms are all kind of have this little kidney bean shape, and that tells me the model is projecting supercells trying to fire ahead of this main line back here. And this would be the storm mode that would have the highest likelihood of tornadoes, again, including strong tornadoes in this time frame. Going to be a big time threat we need to watch throughout Saturday afternoon today. And then into the evening, like I said, folks, this is going to be an overnight problem as well. We hit 7 p.m. Eastern. And remember, it's December. The sun is down by about 6:30, depending on obviously where you're watching, sometimes a little sooner than that, and maybe a little later. But the sun goes down and the severe threat continues. Now, I do think during the overnight, we are still going to have some little embedded supercells out in front of this line through Mississippi and even back down towards maybe Baton Rouge. But this should turn a little bit more quasi-linear through the overnight. What I mean by that is it goes from kind of these discrete cells like we're going to see over much of Louisiana to maybe more of a line segment over portions of Mississippi and Alabama through the overnight. But that does not mean the tornado threat goes away. In fact, if anything, the trees that you live around and the sun not being out being the big one could really increase the tornadic danger as folks are going to sleep overnight tonight. And then that line of storms continues working on through Mississippi, Alabama through the overnight. Should lose some steam, I think. Not a lot, though. Again, I expect severe storms throughout the overnight and into tomorrow morning. And then here we go into tomorrow morning. We're waking up about 7 a.m. Eastern, and we've got a feisty line of storms from eastern Kentucky all the way down to the Gulf Coast of Florida into the Destin area. Strong straight line winds, embedded tornadoes going to be the risk with that. And then we move this ahead later on into the day, into the morning. This is about, we'll get to noon. This line of storms now trying to work through the Charlotte area, up through Boone, down through Columbia, Augusta, and then into southeastern Georgia and back towards the Jacksonville area by the afternoon hours. And then we get towards the evening, about 3, 4 o'clock, swinging on through Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, and then to the Outer Banks by the overnight hours. And then this is the time frame. Let me switch the model real quick to the NAM just so you can see it a little bit easier. This is the time frame I'm watching for a bit of an enhanced tornado risk potentially, and the models are still fighting over it. But here we go. This is 3, 4, 5 o'clock on the NAM model. This line of storms is just a tad quicker, and what happens because of that is we re-destabilize the atmosphere over the Piedmont and North Carolina and Virginia, and new storms begin to fire, and these could have a even higher end tornado potential from Greensboro, Charlotte, up into Danville. That kind of corridor is what I'm watching for tomorrow afternoon. Now, it's not set in stone that that's going to happen, but the NAM sometimes sniffs these things out, and it very well could be correct, and we'll need to watch that for, again, a higher end tornado threat tomorrow. And we'll see what the models look like tomorrow morning, and I'll give you an update on if that seems more likely or less likely. All right, this is a wonderful map to use. This is the significant tornado parameter map, and I'll show it to you on the high-resolution rapid refresh model. This is brand new right off the dock here, and this afternoon you'll notice the tornado ingredients increasing into East Texas, but the place I'm most concerned about is right into here, into Louisiana and Mississippi during the afternoon today. And if we move this at just a little bit more, Right here about 22Z, that's going to be probably about 4, 5, 6 o'clock. So as the sun is going down, some of these STP values, folks, this is, running 4 to 5, and that's on a scale that, goes up generally to 10. Now, you can get a little higher than that, but you start hitting 1, 2, things become a problem. You start hitting 3, 4, you really need to be concerned, and you get above a 5, that's when you really start to sound the alarm bell in some of these areas on the model, getting in and around that range during this evening. And then, like I said, folks, that's not the end of it. Overnight tonight, Mississippi seeing those tornado ingredients, and then later into the overnight getting into Alabama. And if we switch this back to the longer range run, just so we can move this out even further into time, you will see that kind of continuing into Mississippi there, and then into Alabama by the late evening hours into early morning tomorrow, and dying down a little bit throughout the night. But you'll notice, folks, it's still there. The tornado threat's not going away with the sun. And then we get into tomorrow morning, and a much lower tornado threat on the high-resolution rapid refresh model through Georgia and the Carolinas. However, if I show you the NAM model for this same time frame, here we go, tomorrow morning, tornado ingredients increasing into Georgia and into South Carolina. This is through the afternoon, and this is the time frame. Again, this is not from the first line of storms, which could produce embedded tornadoes, but I think strong straight line winds will be the bigger deal. But this is the afternoon when we could get some secondary storms to form from Columbia up to Charlotte again, into kind of the Triad and into the Danville area. And then by the time we get into Monday morning, all the tornado threat is gone, at least onshore. Now, if you're out on the Gulf Stream, you could have your own problems, but I can't imagine many of you will be. So that's kind of the severe weather threat, but this storm is not just going to be relegated to the southeast. Many folks going to feel the storm itself. Just the severe weather threat will be bigger down through the mid-south and into the mid-Atlantic. So let's go ahead and time out the rest of this thing. This afternoon, again, showers along the I-95 corridor, some freezing drizzle into the interior northeast, even up into portions of Canada, but not a big weather day. It's tomorrow, though. We're waking up. Here we go, Sunday morning. Pretty good rain falling into Ohio, Indiana, and like I mentioned, severe weather threat even all the way up into the Pittsburgh area tomorrow, and here's why. Our warm front extending out from the storm, and that's going to create some increased helicity along this warm front, and do not be surprised, folks, for maybe a brief tornado somewhere into this area tomorrow, West Virginia up through Pittsburgh, maybe even southern Ohio into your Sunday afternoon. Would not be shocked at all to see that. A ton of spin up here due to that warm frontal passage. And you'll notice that rain kind of beginning with the warm front as well, getting up into Michigan, portions of upstate New York by Sunday afternoon, and then obviously all the severe weather down here into the warm sector, like we mentioned, is going to be the bigger concern, but definitely rain to the north. And then something kind of new on the models. We get into Sunday evening, the storm pulls out of here, and a bit of a deformation band shows up, and we've got heavy snow falling into portions there of eastern Michigan there on the mitten, and this will be something to watch. The model's picking up on this. A lot of them agreeing now. This could drop a quick couple of inches, including potentially into the Detroit area, but really just the eastern half of Michigan itself. Going to watch for that winter weather potential, and we'll talk about totals more tomorrow. But this could easily drop a quick couple of inches, maybe somebody getting 3 to 5 inches. That's a stout-looking deformation band pulling through. Heavy rain into the I-95 overnight Sunday into the morning of Monday. And then by Monday afternoon, most of us clearing out, but notice out west, our next storm ticking on through. And that leads us perfectly into the next segment of the video, which is this major pattern change that the models have been honing in on and that we need to talk about. All right, so let's go ahead and let's break it down for you. We've been talking all about it, and I'll tell you, folks, as we get closer in time, it only looks better and better for snowfall potential. And obviously, right now, the big deal is severe weather. That's why we started with that, but this could be its own big deal. Winter weather has its own impacts, its own risks to life, especially cold air, and that's what I think we're most confident on, is a big block of Arctic air, potentially. The polar vortex is a word that gets thrown around a lot. The European from last night, folks, shows a chunk of it breaking off and sliding perfectly down into the eastern half of the U.S. By, we'll say the 10th or so of January, really about the 6th or 7th of January, which, is not that far away. We're talking now within about a 10-day time frame. So let's go ahead and talk about this pattern a little bit more. And in fact, I am on the wrong model. Let's switch it to this model to talk about it. These are the GEF ensembles, and we'll get it into this weekend and into early next week. Here's the big trough that's creating all the storminess. And then here comes a new trough into the Pacific Northwest. That is our pattern change initiator, as I'm calling it. And what's going to happen is that's going to kind of swing on through the country during the first day or two of January, and really through the New Year's Eve as well, and the day before that, I should add. But behind it, notice this blue building in, and this doesn't necessarily mean snow. The blue on the map is not snow. The red is not, tropical conditions. But the blue does suggest troughing, which in meteorology during the wintertime tells me a stormier pattern, meaning low pressure, and a colder pattern, which absolutely can mean snow. But trust me, if you're over here in the blue, that's not snow at all. It's just cold air. So we'll go ahead and move this further ahead into time into the first couple days of January, and there's two specific storm signals I'm watching. You'll notice one first little big bump in this trough in the east right around starting the 3rd into the 4th into the 5th of January. That's storm time frame number 1, the GFS ensemble showing this. And folks, this is within about a week now. This is next Saturday and Friday, so about a week from right now. And then after that, a bigger signal for a block of cold air and potential snowiness right around the 8th and 9th of January, and then potentially even lingering a little bit past that. And I'm going to go on a quick tangent, folks, and you're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek at my January plans, but I have to leave Charlotte January 10th, and I won't get back till the 13th. I'm at a meteorology conference in New Orleans, and I'll be honest with you, I am absolutely terrified that it is going to snow in Charlotte while I am not there. But luckily, I think the models are working out that the best snow time frame is about the 8th and 9th of January. And you can see that here on the GFS. This is the afternoon of the 9th, big block of cold air. And then as you get into the 10th, the 11th, and 12th, this begins to work offshore a little bit, and we could potentially moderate slightly, at least from the snowfall chances, probably still cold. But quite a look on the GFS ensembles. And folks, I'll be honest with you, that's one of the better looks we've seen in years for winter weather across the eastern U.S. And when I show you the ensembles and the operational runs, you'll get pretty excited about that too, I think. All right, this is the European ensemble, and we'll go ahead and get it about to, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. All right, here we go. Sunday evening, again, this is the storm producing severe weather. Today, tomorrow, this is the storm that is the pattern change initiator that we've been talking about really for a while now, and here we go. It crosses the lower 48, could bring a little bit of winter weather on its own, but more importantly, going to establish the cold air through New Year's Day and the first couple days of January, and here is storm signal 1. Again, a big boost in this trough. Right around the 3rd, 4th, 5th of January. That's the first time frame. But I'll tell you, I think this one is not the big one. This absolutely could produce snow. I think it'll definitely produce cold air, but it's that second time frame. It's not the first week into January, but right in here, about the 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe even the 10th of January, that folks, I mean, this is a beautiful look for winter weather in the eastern half of the country. You've got a strong trough, or excuse me, a strong ridge out west that's producing or pushing this trough just a little bit east. You got a strong ridging over Greenland here. And I'll just, actually let me draw it with arrows. That'll make more sense. So arrow here, and then a massive arrow down pointing right into the eastern half of the country. Now, the tricky part is this going to slide this way a little bit? Is it going to slide this way a little bit? For winter weather along the eastern seaboard, the I-95 corridor, you really want the center of this trough axis to be parked basically right over the Ohio Valley, and you want it to look a little bit more like this. So you get that low pressure track to ride right up the coast, and that is still very possible. This is, 320 hours out. This is about, let me do the math, 12, 13 days or so from now. So it's a while out there. Trust me, I get it. But I mean, folks, the models have been hinting at this and they have been locked in. The GFS, the European look nearly identical. And wait till I show you this, the operational runs. This is when things get really exciting, I think. So we'll move this ahead. This is Sunday evening. And here's that little snow into Michigan I was talking about earlier. Here's the big East Coast storm and then the West Coast storm getting its act together and working on through the plains. I do think we'll see some snow through Nebraska, South Dakota, for your New Year's Eve, if you will, during a Monday afternoon and evening. And then this storm kind of crosses on through. Not expecting a big severe weather threat with this, but I do think showers through the Ohio Valley. into the northeast by your Tuesday afternoon. But more importantly, and I will also add this, some of the models have cranked this up along the coast a little bit. So if you're looking for a return to winter weather sooner than maybe the first week of January, or at least, a week into January, I mean, this one could do it. I do think we do have winter weather chances into the interior northeast by next Tuesday, Wednesday, as some of the models have kind of cranked up this storm along the coast. We'll watch it. But again, the most important thing here is this is bringing cold air. This is bringing us back down. Notice our 540 line, and if you don't know what that is, it's kind of the furthest south blue line you're seeing here. And it's kind of, generally speaking, the rain-snow line is the best way to look at that. If you're on the blue side, more likely you're seeing winter precipitation. If you're on the red side, more than likely you're going to see rain. Now, not all cases, not a one-size-fits-all, but that's the general meteorological rule on that one. And here we go into the first, weekend of January. A little bit before that, this is that Thursday, that Friday, and then you hit the weekend. And folks, it is getting chilly. And look at this little clipper system. This is something the models have been hitting at. This could bring some snow through portions of Kentucky, Tennessee, surrounding areas, maybe. And this is a big maybe, but some of the models trying to phase this off the coast and get a little bit of a coastal storm for the first weekend of January. Again, this is the time period we're going to watch for the first storm signal, but I'm not super excited about the chances of it producing a big winter storm. Snow, I think somewhere, sure, with that at least initial kind of clipper energy. But again, this is the time frame we're still establishing cold air. Here we go, though. This is the exciting one. We start getting into the 5th, the 6th. This is getting into that second time frame, the GFS producing a big storm within 10 days now. Snow into much of the east. And folks, look at this. It cranks it up. The cold air dives south, and we've got a classic southern slider right around 10 days. From now on the GFS, producing a major southern winter storm with cold Arctic air to the north. And this is not fleeting cold air. This is cold air that is establishing itself. And just a beautiful look for a huge winter storm. And then the trough dives even further south, and it just stays cold and snowy. Or at least cold, maybe a little less on the snowy side, but some snow there, and very cold as you get through about the 10th or so of January. So that's the latest GFS model. What about the European? Well, it's not far off. So we'll move this ahead into early next week. Here's our pattern change initiator. We're going to kind of skip ahead of that. Again, kind of cranks up along the coast a little bit on this model, like the GFS did. We'll see if that plays out. We'll talk about it more in depth as we kind of get away from the ongoing severe weather that we're worrying about. And this video already is going to be more than long enough anyway. But the cold air gets established. Here it is. And then there's that little clipper system, the European also showing it. That could bring some northwest flow, maybe a little bit of snow, tries to break containment and get into North Carolina, Virginia, portions of the mid-Atlantic. We'll see about a week or so out that one is. And then a big storm on the European right in that time frame we're watching. Now, further north on the European, obviously, and this is also, unfortunately, a bit of a severe weather threat with this one, it looks like. But either way, a major winter storm on both models in about 10 days, getting into the 6th and 7th of January. And then on the European, like the GFS, right behind it, you get into about the 8th, the 9th of January, another storm signal. And then the European absolutely drops the hammer. This is just, this is freezing air, folks. We're talking 492 thickness values. That is truly Arctic polar vortex-like air. In fact, you can kind of see it with a piece of it broken off, the core of it here, and then you can kind of see the rings around it. That's about as cold as it gets this time of year, and considering it is the coldest time of the year, that's just in general about as cold as it gets in this part of the world. Now, we'll talk about the temperatures in a second here, but let's go ahead and talk about the snow a little bit more. These are the ensemble chances of at least an inch of snow within a 24-hour period. We will start with the European and then go to the GFS. So here is our pattern change initiator. Notice some snow potential into the northern plains, not a big deal. And then snow potential into the interior northeast later next work week, that Thursday, Wednesday time frame. Into upstate New York, into the mountains of New England. Looks like a pretty good chance of some snow, maybe even some northwest flow snow. Now, it's after this that we get into the more favorable time frame for other folks to see snow. And here we go, a blossom with a little bit of that clipper system. Maybe some snow around the 3rd, the 4th of January here into the Ohio Valley. I wouldn't expect a big storm out of this. Again, that's just kind of a clipper piece of energy around a week or so from now. And then after that, the actual energy shows up. And folks, this is the best look for a winter storm we've had in the east outside of the northeast, we'll say, in at least so far this year, but probably in even longer than that. I mean, Ohio down to West Virginia. Check this out, the 10% chance, a 10-15% chance of snow line getting all the way down into Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, North Georgia, Tennessee, into Virginia, the Carolinas. I mean, this is a big signal for some sort of storm right around the 6th of January on the European ensembles in the eastern half of the country. And then you'll notice another little round of a snow signal right around the 9th here on the ensembles, and then that kind of hangs around into the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and maybe even the 13th. So it's a good look. What about the GFS ensembles? Same general idea. Here's early next week. Here's the Clipper system. Both of those kind of similar, but we get to the fun time period right around, this is right after the first week of January and right into the 6th. Again, this is a time frame the models are hinting at. A big signal here into the Midwest, into the Ohio Valley, getting down into the Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast, and then another signal as we get closer to the 9th and the 10th. Here a little bit further south on the models, and obviously you get to that point and you're out in a no man's land, and we're gonna need time to figure it out, but you get the idea. Chances for snow returning, and I think potentially in a big way. Now, another thing that's going to return in a big way are these freezing temperatures. And right now, pretty warm through really much of North America in general. Stays that way through the rest of this weekend and into early next week. But by the middle of next week, we'll say Wednesday, Thursday, notice the blue returning to the south below average temperatures. Not super cold yet, but don't worry, it's on the way. And as we get into about a week from now, next weekend, into the 10-day time frame, I mean, we get locked into the freezer right here around the 10th of January, a little bit beforehand probably. Seeing a lot of this blue in the east, that's well below average temperatures, and the GFS kind of hangs on to that cold air through at least the first half of January, potentially longer than that in the east. And I'll show you the European, folks. How cold could it potentially get? Well, let's skip ahead here. Again, you'll notice kind of these blocks of cold air, but the real cold air oozes in. Again, this is cold, but this is not the end of the world. Here's maybe that severe weather threat with the European storm, but like I said, that's 10 days from now. We'll kind of see how the storm evolves. But then here comes the big shot of Arctic polar vortex-like air. This is the 10th of January, that morning, low temperatures. We're talking single digits in the Carolinas. We're talking, 20, 30 below into the upper plains and into portions of the prairies of Canada. And I mean, this is truly Arctic excuse me, polar vortex-like air through kind of the 10th and 11th of January. I mean, the model indicating, temperatures right around zero in Charlotte, North Carolina, just to give you an idea. We're talking below zero into the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. That's pretty crazy stuff. So we'll see if it happens. I do think it'll get cold. Will it get that cold? That'll be its own topic for another day, and plenty of days ahead. Again, this is going to be a marathon, kind of talking about this pattern, not a sprint. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you. Again, severe weather threat today. Take it seriously. Same story tomorrow. Have a way to get those watches, warnings, and advisories. Call family in the area, let them know, and stay safe. With that said, I'll see you all tomorrow.